More and more people seem to be going off the cliff with the lemmings, all charging off that cliff like it's really meant to be something we should jump off of. But do you consider yourself to be part of the insane group, part of the group of the lemmings, or are you one of those people that's standing back and saying, all this doesn't really quite make sense? I'm not sure if I agree with what everyone is doing right now. Are you stepping out of the mob and saying, maybe let's not do this? Let's ask some questions here. Do you believe in morals? Do you believe that there is an order to the universe? Whether it is your faith in God who has given us laws, or whether you believe that there is just an inherent system of laws or universal truths that we need to abide by. We need to commit ourselves to living in an orderly fashion, not just by whatever the media is telling us to get worked up over right now. Do we derive our morality from things that are happening today and the media personalities and the celebrities that tell us what is right and what is wrong, and then they point us at people who are wrongdoers and tell us to persecute them? If you're not on board with that, you may not be part of the insane group. Do you believe in spending less than what you earn? Now, this takes into account just the very basic belief that everyone who can should work. That's not a very popular opinion these days because everyone should get free money from the government. That's a whole other question whether you believe in free money or whether you think that is also insane. But let's dive into this. What do you believe? Do you believe that we should spend less than what we take in, that our government should spend less than they take in? Because that's not very popular either. Everyone thinks that the government should spend as much money as they want to, that free money will rain down out of the sky, and that it will solve everyone's problems. Oh, you have, $100,000 in student loan debt? How about we just write that off? Is that how society works? Where you make agreements, then you can renege on those agreements later because you don't like them anymore? You take out a loan for your mortgage for your house, and then later you're just like, yeah, I'm just going to stop making mortgage payments for years and years on end. And then when they foreclose on you, you suddenly are the victim. Friends, we are surrounded by people who have lost their minds. They think that up is down, and they think down is up. And if you dare say differently, then they will do whatever it takes to take you out. Whether it's pulling your yard signs out of the yard because they don't agree with your political persuasions, or whether it's poisoning your dog, or whether it's trying to get you fired from your workplace. Friends, we are surrounded by more and more people that are patently insane. Now, I understand it's still a relatively small portion of the population, but they seem to be having quite a bit of sway out there, don't they? You see that these 10 to 15, 20 percenters out there are actively trying to burn down the communities that they live in, whether literally with arson attempts. We keep seeing that many of these forest fires and wildfires out there, they keep getting back to the fact that these were intentionally started, pretty much mostly by environmentalist wackos who want to prove their whole warming scenarios and everything like that. So they go out there and start fires so that you will finally realize that they were right all along. If they could be starting hurricanes down in the Caribbean, I swear they would all be on boats down there trying to conjure up hurricanes. It was just earlier this year where we were told because the water is warm down there, we were going to have record levels of hurricanes. We still haven't had a hurricane yet this year, which is unusual, not because of the hurricane season intensity, but rather quite the opposite. Everything these guys tell us is true turns out not to be true. Anyone with an objective reality will realize that these guys are insane. They're telling you that there's a pink elephant flying across the sky, but anyone with eyeballs can look up in the sky and see that there is not. And yet they tell you, and they believe that if they repeat it oftenly enough, if they subject your children to enough propaganda, that they will be scarred with socialism, and they will be scarred with all of these warped mentalities that they're impressing upon the children for life. Interestingly enough, we're seeing that Gen Z out there is relatively conservative. The brainwashing that they've been getting in schools have been so blatant and so obvious that many people in college and younger are actually rebelling against it because they realize that it is propaganda. The problem is that there's enough people without the intellectual capability to think for themselves or the social motivation not to. These 15, 20% of the population are militantly spreading the propaganda. And the rest of the Gen Z, even though they may be privately conservative in many regards, they are also cowards by and large. They have learned to speak the double speak. They know all the platitudes and they can say all the right things, but yet when it comes down to it, they may not believe those things, but they will not stand in the way of them. They have been told and bullied from a very young age to know that they cannot stand up to the authority. They cannot stand up against all this propaganda. They need to just kind of go along with the flow. So it may be encouraging that a large number of the youth nowadays, particularly young men, are done with this wokeness thing. Also realize that they will not stand up to the mob or stand up to the crowd in any sort of courage to try to stop the crowd. The 10 to 15, 20% crazy woke mobsters will take you out, beat you, flog you, do whatever they need to do to you to destroy your life, and everyone will uncomfortably watch. That's the type of world that we're moving into. It is insane. The tyranny of the minority is moving into reality. We see that the people that count things are much more important than the people who fill out paper voting things. We see that. Right now, what's happening down in Atlanta is insane. That the people that pushed out the poll observers and pulled out all the extra boxes of papers in the dead of night, and 160 plus thousand dropped down to negative numbers like that. All while the people that were supposed to be there to observe were not allowed in the building. But of course, those aren't the people that are getting arrested and charged with crimes right now. It's the people that asked questions about it. Am I in trouble now because I just said those things? I'm thinking those questions right now, but those things need to be said. Are we going to be a society of cowards that gets run over by these few who have no conception, no regard for any sort of morality? They will lie as long as they are right and doing it for a good cause. They will destroy things. They will destroy private property. They will steal whatever they want if it's convenient or in line with their political persuasion. We need to ask ourselves that if the things that we're doing as a society are helpful or hurtful. We can't help but look over, if you're anything like me, look over at Europe and envy them for some things. While the United States is continuing to stack up this homogenous culture, these massive cities that are completely unwalkable. And you look over to Europe and you see these walkable cities, you see these walkable towns. And you have to ask yourself the question of, are we building cities for people or are we building cities for corporations? And I don't know the easy answers to all these deep, pressing problems. But we're being told that individuality is wrong, and even the things that make you individual may be wrong as well, and you should go to the doctor to get those things changed. We're being told that what's in your DNA and your chromosomes is wrong, and that a doctor can fix those things. We're being told that you aren't needed anymore. A robot can do everything that you can. And even when you are needed, they're telling you that you need to act more like a robot. Who you are as a person needs to be erased, and what you need to do is just do what you're told. You need to believe what you are told to believe. You need to worship at the flag of the rainbow stars. All the things that are out there that are antithetical to everything that you were raised with are being told that you don't even have the ability to question them anymore. We need to be in complete submission to this hybrid of corporatism and tyrannical government. The government does whatever it can get away with, and what it can't get away with, it pressures corporations to do on their behalf. Are we part of the insane, or are we looking at the world and asking the question, am I insane? Because everything doesn't make sense. Every single thing that's happening in our society is not making sense. So what are the sane people out there doing? We've seen people stand up in cities and say no more. We will defend other people's businesses. We will defend people's lives. And for those actions, they were publicly destroyed when they stood up to the system. Friends, if you stand up in the wrong jurisdiction, you will end up in prison for life. That's just the way things are these days. But I think the sane people out there, and you hear from channels like this and others, the sane people have realized that this society is not one that can be redeemed. What we can do is we can get out of it and try to survive. Moving to states that are friendly, at the very least moving to counties that are more friendly. Whereas folks have been nullifying laws from the federal level, at the state level, and local level, now people like you and I, freedom-minded people, are organizing with their counties and their states to nullify national laws as well that are tyrannical. The seizing of your boomsticks. There are many states and counties that are saying no more. The rights shall not be infringed. It's written in the Constitution. You cannot just define away the rights that are inherent and given by God to all free people. And in the end, we are all free people, because what is in our heads and in our hearts cannot be controlled by governments. They may control our bodies and lock us into little prison cells. They may force us to do things that we choose not to do. But in our heads, in our minds, and in our hearts, we still have the freedom to choose who we will be and how we will respond. Friends, I don't know if you're among the insane or whether you're still relatively sane. But if you want to be free, all you can really do nowadays, I think, is hope for the best, but plan for the worst. When this country gets some more tyranny shoved down our throats, I think you will find more and more people are going to stand up and say no. No. Is the person that is on vacation 8 months out of the year, that the rest of the time is still residing in the White House, what happens when that person tries to shove something down our throats? Are we going to take it? I don't know that we will. When that happens, do you want to be anywhere near the cities? That's probably not a good idea. Opting out of being dependent upon corporations, businesses that hate you, that hate everything that you stand for. That 1 month every year they display their colors all over the place to show you how much they despise you. How you do not belong in this country. Being dependent upon these companies is scary. One way to get out of this is to stockpile enough that you aren't dependent upon them anymore. Another way out of this is to become as independent as you can and participate with others to become independent so that you don't need to be dependent upon these companies and these governments. To move into places where these companies, these government agencies don't have nearly as much sway. And local governments may be able to provide some level of protection. That's why a lot of people are moving to places like Idaho. A lot of people moving to Tennessee. I don't know if that's the best idea, but places like South Carolina, places like Florida, places like Texas. Is anywhere perfect? No, it's not. But some places are a whole heck of a lot better than other places. If you're living in the communist state of California, I feel for you. Even if you're in the conservative parts of the state, the stuff that's coming down from the state government is just insane. If you're in New York, if you're in some of these liberal enclaves in the New England area, what can you do? And is it better just to leave? These are tough questions that we're asking. As you look around and see that you're surrounded by insane people and people that are going along with the insane people, you have to ask yourself the question of how can we survive? How can we and our families survive, our friends? And sometimes you just need to give as much distance between you and the crazy people. I don't know if that'll be enough in the end, but at least you'll be surrounded by people who are moderately sane when things go down. I know, I'm in a blue state myself. Pennsylvania is not the most freedom-friendly state in the Union. What happened this last go-around in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, was almost as corrupt as what happened in Philadelphia this time around. The corruption in counting processes is, what's the point anymore? Is there any point going down and putting my paper in the machine? Because whatever we do is just going to be counteracted by these machines in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. That's the truth of it. And I know you know what I'm talking about. Over 50% of Americans know that shadiness happened the last couple times things were counted. Over 50% of Americans. And I'm not just talking about just one party, Republicans or something. Everyone kind of knows that something happened. The people that got what they wanted, well, they're okay with it. Maybe they don't agree with it, but they're going along with it. Be careful at being around people that will go along with things. Surround yourself by courageous people who will stand up and say no. Maybe they don't look all buff and have bulging muscles, but they, in their own way, will stand up and push back. Be the people that stand up and push back as well. What happens when your neighbor, what happens when somebody in your community starts to get canceled? Will you stand up with them? Will you patronize their business when they're being boycotted by the powers that be because they said something that was sane in an insane world? We need to start standing up for each other and pushing back. Push back when you can and in places that are good to do so. But sometimes we need to push back just for the sake of pushing back. We need to show others that not everybody is insane, so that we can form more powerful communities together of people who are legitimately sick and tired of all the BS that is happening in the world, particularly in our countries, our cities, and in our states. Friends, you're watching this video, so you're probably not part of the insane group. There's the insane, there's the sane, and then there's the people that just kind of go along with whatever. There's two of those groups that we should not be a part of. Friends, I hope you're taking steps, because the world is devolving, and when the poo or the stuff hits the fan, it's going to go everywhere. We see how these crises go. When it starts, it is already well on its way. Just like a market crash, if you wait until the crash starts happening, you're already too late. You're already trapped. And so we are in our society, awaiting the collapse of our society. And when the crash happens, it's going to be too late. It's going to be too late to stock up. It's going to be too late to move to a safer place. Friends, we have choices now, and we best be making the best choices possible, realizing that in the future, our choices may be stripped away from us, and we may live with the regrets of the opportunities that we lost. Today, you have those opportunities before you. Do what you can today to ensure your freedom, not only today, but for tomorrow and for the hard times to come. Friends, if you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. Thanks so much for watching. This is Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.